Okay, well, let's take a look at the bigger picture now with someone responsible for identifying, tracking and analysing political events which affect the financial markets. Our next guest has spent 20 years as a career diplomat with the British Diplomatic Service. He's the author of the periodical Issues Which Keep Me Awake at Night on political and geopolitical risk. He's Alastair Newton, senior political analyst at Nomura International. Alastair, thanks for speaking to us this morning. Should this vote be keeping Berlusconi awake at night? Is it a brave move or a calculated one?
It's a move he's been forced into to a large extent, Andrea. Given his choice, he probably wouldn't be pushing through an austerity package, but his arm has been twisted by the Finance Minister, Giulio Tremonti. So there's a deep irony in this vote today in that it's a vote which Berlusconi himself probably doesn't want. It does potentially put his position in jeopardy. And perhaps most ironic of all, it actually isn't a big enough austerity package to rein in Italy's swelling debt-to-GDP ratio, despite its relatively low deficit compared to Greece, Spain, or even, as your reporter was saying earlier, the United Kingdom. So a lot of risks for very little return here. But overall, I think what your colleague in Rome was saying that was right. We do actually expect Berlusconi to survive this vote, but it's going to be tight.
Alastair, he is the master of survival, is he not? But are the sharks circling? I mean, there are some people who are poised to take over eventually, aren't there?
One of the reasons which I suspect Silvio Berlusconi has survived as long as he has and is now in his third term as Prime Minister is because the left-of-centre opposition has, during the last 15 or so years, really failed to put up a viable alternative. And it's that lack of a credible opposition which has helped him to stay in power. Now, I think what we are going to see at some point in the not-too-distant future is Gianfranco Fini looking to make a break, not necessarily to take over PDL, but maybe to form some sort of new grouping with the Christian Democrats. I don't think Mr. Fini is quite ready to make that move yet, but clearly things seem to be moving in the direction where he and Berlusconi are going to have a parting of the ways. And the makeup of a new coalition in Italy could actually break the pattern which we've seen for virtually 20 years now, since that large centrist coalition which had dominated Italy for so long fell into disrepute at the beginning of the 1990s.
Alastair, let's talk a little bit about Italy's economic situation. It's not doing terribly badly compared to some of its neighbours, but there are some rather archaic laws, particularly labour laws, that aren't being tackled by these measures.
That's right. Successive governments have failed to grip a structural reform agenda which would boost Italian growth from what is now seen as a sort of normal 1% per annum or thereabouts potential growth, simply not fast enough to rescue Italy from descending into ever-increasing debt-to-GDP ratio. Now, for all that, let's be clear, there are some good things going on in Italy. It still has a lot of world-class corporates. It still is a leader in design, and perhaps most important of all, since Mr. Draghi took over the leadership of Banca d'Italia a few years ago, we have seen Banca d'Italia pushing through financial sector regulatory reform, modernising the banking sector, and Italy's finance sector is actually in pretty good shape. All of that is going on beneath the radar of the politicians, and it does stand to make a significant difference in the medium term.
Alastair Newton, thank you very much indeed.